Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. The original Xbox was an excellent console with many hidden gems and bona fide hits throughout its lifespan. But with the release of its successor, the Xbox 360 in 2005, its life, which started in 2001, was quickly ending. Just 1 year later, we were already seeing the last games to ever come out for the console, and today, I want to look at the final games released on the original Xbox. What was the Xbox's dying breath, and did it have any swan songs? We will look at the final 10 games released in North America, but as a bonus, I wanted to throw in the final releases for both Japan and PAL regions, making a total of 12 games to look at today. And we are going in timeline order. All footage was captured from an original Xbox, and I want to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. But let's go ahead and hop into this one. First up is the final game released in Japan, the King of Fighters Neowave. The Xbox never found its footing in Japan and still has trouble to this day, so it's not a surprise that the final game in this region is months away from the final 10 games in North America. This game came out on March 30th, 2006 in Japan, and it saw a North American release in April, and I'm playing the North American version today. This is a SNK fighter, which usually means a seal of quality, and here it has that. Neowave is a blast. In this entry, they bring tons of variety. There are so many characters to pick between in this game, and not many of them feel like palette swaps. Each have varying levels of special moves that feel different enough and easy to learn. In fighting games with this expansive of a roster, I love selecting the random button, which makes for a great multiplayer play style. Just getting some friends together, hitting the random button, and messing around with some fighters. I enjoy the special bar system here as well, where you can select between 1 to 3 bars, each giving different play styles to executing your super moves, and once again bringing that variety to this game. The look of this game is excellent too. It has fantastic 2D sprite work, all of the character sprites move fluidly, and the fighting controls work well with their movements. It's a bit more methodical of a 2D fighter, especially when compared to something like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or Guilty Gear, but I like that it changes things up a little. It makes for some tense fights. It works especially well with excellent stages where the time of day changes and location swap between rounds. Match that with a nice jazzy soundtrack and you have something both fun to look at and to listen to. This is one of my favorite fighters on the console, so Japan ended its time with the Xbox in a positive way. It's excellent with multiple people and has 1v1 and 3v3 fighting modes for any type of fighting game style. This is a solid start to this last games list. So the next 4 games were all released on the same day in North America, November 20th, 2006. The first of the bunch is Superman Returns. This is based on the superhero movie of the same name from June of that year. This also saw releases on the PS2 and Xbox 360. It was published and developed by EA. I haven't seen this movie since 2006, but I remember being warmer to it than most people were. I also had always heard that this game was decent, but I think I heard that more for the 360 version, which I still haven't played yet. The Xbox version here is a bit rough, even if it has a few things right. Superman games are infamously hard to get right. I guess because Superman is so strong and has so many powers, it's hard to pull off. Though I think with the right team, I believe it can work. Here you get put right into the action. You have all of Metropolis around you, and you can fly around attacking bad guys, putting out fires, and stopping asteroids. In the tutorial, you destroy asteroids for what feels like eternity. The flying here does feel surprisingly good though, matching a sense of speed and good control. Flying around Metropolis is excellent, and your powers are handled decently. Controls-wise, I think this game works. The fighting and combos are handled well with nice combos, especially in the air. I think its biggest issue though is tedium. It has many of the same objectives, saving people in the city, on repeat. It's tiring and doesn't try enough various things to keep it fun. Unlike Hulk Ultimate Destruction, where destroying things keeps the sandbox alive, this doesn't have a fun sandbox appeal. It doesn't help that Metropolis is not a good-looking city on the Xbox. It's bland and flat skyscrapers all around. Cars and people are walking around, but it never feels alive. In 2006, we saw some fantastic open worlds on the Xbox, so this doesn't really have an excuse. When you have a large city with repeated objectives, and the city doesn't have anything fun going on, it's a recipe for a bland game. The fighting and flying are good here, but I wish we had a better overall package. Maybe the 360 version is better. Let me know in the comments, and perhaps I'll check that one out.
Help down here!
The next game released the same day was College Hoops 2K7. This was developed by Visual Concepts and published by 2K. I will always admit when talking about sports games that I'm not a big sports guy, but I do find the games fun. I don't follow sports game series or sports in real life. I can pick up a sports game and enjoy it though, just don't expect me to know anything about rosters or anything like that. It's mainly going to be about fun for me. Basketball is a sport that I don't know anything about, especially college basketball, so I was in the dark for this one. Luckily, 2K usually did a good job in these days to make fun sports titles. The gameplay here is solid. I think once you get out on the court, passing the ball is as simple as a button press, and so is shooting. It does have a system for shooting that involves you using the right stick, and it feels good. This comes into play with free throws, and it's easy to pick up all around, but not necessarily arcadey. It still has a slower approach, and it has tactics involved. From my time playing though, it felt like a solid enough basketball game. For me though, sports games live and die with their franchise modes. This game has a good selection for a franchise mode. I love stat building and working hard to get your team to rise through the ranks. The legacy mode is that mode for stat points and building up your team. It's a nice franchise mode and has a clean and easy to use interface. There's also a specific coach mode that has you not playing as any of the players, but selecting substitutes and plays. I didn't know what I was doing at all in this mode, but I do think it's a fun idea. This game also looks excellent. The fidelity is good for a late Xbox game. They're trying to push the system, models, stadiums, and animations look clean, and it makes for a solid looking sports title. I don't think this game will convert non-basketball fans by any means, but I did have some fun with it. I could see this one being a good pickup to play with a friend.
Holy Cross wins the tip-off, and the game is underway. Massey grabs the rebound inside. Don't put anything in the cup. I'm sure his coach will be telling him that. The layup.
The third game released that day was Bass Pro Shops Trophy Bass 2007. This was published by Vivendi Games and developed by Big John Games. I was interested in this one since I do enjoy a nice fishing game from time to time. They can be relaxing experiences of just casting and reeling in some fish. Generally though, I like a solid career mode to make it feel like a full experience, which unfortunately this game does not have. In this game, you create your fisher, and you go around to different lakes doing tournaments. You win money amounts, but you don't do much with it. You unlock more lakes and more tournaments, and that's about it. This is as bare bones of a game as you can get, which is a disappointment. Don't go into this one looking for any semblance of a nice career mode. The fishing though is fine and simple. You take your boat out onto the lake and you cast out. It's as simple as holding the right trigger to reel in, and you repeat this until you catch some fish. It's much like any other fishing game where you move your reel with the fish and reeling it in so it's not too loose. It's honestly not too difficult to catch fish, which I appreciate. I've played too many fishing games where it's a battle to get fish to bite, and this one is simple to get fish to bite, and reeling in feels good. It at least gets fishing down and fun, so it's not a bad game on that front. It's just not a great looking game, and they tried to put a little flair into this game with a boat racing mode. All that is though is just you driving your boat, collecting tokens in the lake. It's nothing that will hold your attention for very long. That's this game in general. The fishing is fine, but there's nothing substantial here to keep you engaged. This game is only worth it for hardcore fishing enthusiasts, but I recommend a few Xbox exclusive fishing games before this one. The final game released on November 20th was Bass Pro Shops Trophy Hunter 2007, the hunting companion to the last game. This was published by Vivendi Games and developed by Jarhead Games, which are now Piranha Games, who work on the MechWarrior titles, which is interesting. This is the hardest game to talk about today, which is sad because I don't hate hunting games. And there's something fun here, I can feel it, but the gameplay is too slow for me to enjoy. At least this game features a career mode. You have a set amount of money, and you can earn more from hunting animals. You have a lodge you can visit to buy a bunch of items, things like guns, scopes, animal calls, tents, and health packs. It's a nice touch and makes it feel like a step up from the bass fishing game. Here you buy tags to kill certain animals, then go out to different locales and hunt. You have a guide that'll help you and tell you generally what's around. Unfortunately, finding animals is a whole other story. I'm not asking for plentiful animals for you to kill. There does need to be some skill involved, but I could not find any animals anywhere. I used animal calls, dummies, and snuck as quietly as possible, and I could not find a thing. There's even a feature to highlight animal tracks, and once again, it would always come back with no animal tracks wherever I went. I'm not saying they don't exist, but it feels like the process of searching for animals is too slow and dull. I tried my hardest to find an animal or track, walking forever in many different maps, but eventually I had to call it. I can tell you from target practice that the shooting is rudimentary and the graphics are very crude. The whole game reeks of a cheap feeling, yet I couldn't kill an animal, so I can't have a fully formed opinion on this one. I will revisit this one eventually, but I will tell you I'm not that excited. For me, this was a slog of an experience, and it's a sad part of this lineup. The day after, on November 21st, we got the final Xbox game of 2006 with Thrillville. This was published by LucasArts and developed by Frontier Developments. You play as a child or teen who has been given a chain of parks called Thrillville. All of them have seen better days, and your goal is to improve their status by repairing, cleaning, building, and marketing. I have experienced this one because I played it back in the day. I'm a huge fan of the Roller Coaster Tycoon series, and this felt like a fun coaster game, though it is very different than those games. It's less focused on management, and it's more of a mini-game collection social simulation. You have various missions that you have to do, and doing them improves the park and allows you to move on to the next park. You have stuff that you would imagine, such as running a marketing campaign and building rides and coasters. Coaster building is simple. There's no need to consider safety or physics. Throw in big hills and giant loops, and the coaster will never roll back or crash. This system is good for kids, and I find it fun to mess around with. The social aspect is half-baked, though. You go around and talk to people, and you befriend them. Generally, it's to enthuse them about the park, and it's a lot about figuring out what topics they like and just repeating the same facts or phrases. The best parts of this are the guest challenges where you face off against opponents at minigames. The minigames are the real bread and butter of this game because there's so many. You can race on your created go-kart tracks, there are first-person shooter games, top-down shooters, platformers, and many more. Some are better than others, but when they're fun, they work well, and the fact a lot of them have multiplayer support makes this a solid party game. I guess it's interesting that a park game is more about mini-games than management. It is a bit odd, but it's fun. It's not exceptional, but it's easy to have a good time with. Thrillville ends up being one of the best games on this list, and you should check out my review if you want a more in-depth look at this game. On February 7th, 2007, The Xbox got Major League Baseball 2K7, a baseball game from 2K, and developed by Kush Games. As I've mentioned before, I'm not a huge sports fan, and that goes for baseball. But I do at least have a stronger familiarity with the sport since I have a family that watches it. I've played plenty of baseball games over the year, and this one just seems like another entry, but it does have some fun additions. One thing I've always liked about 2K games, like this one, is the inclusion of a skybox. This is a space where you can find your collectibles and trophies. You also get mini games to collect like trivia and air hockey. It's unique bursts like this that help make a sports game stand out. For someone like me who could care less about rosters, I can go back to any old sports game, and stuff like this makes it easier for me to pick this one out of the lineup. The gameplay here is good, with pitches having to be pointed in a general direction and batting taking the motion of the stick. These are solid choices for those who want something harder, but I do like arcade play, which is a control scheme you can select. This makes it simple button presses and brings it closer to the simple play that I enjoy. All of your normal goodies are here, such as a franchise mode. This was good and worked like many of the other franchise modes today, providing a structure for your play, which is what I spent most of my time in. 2K7 also looks fantastic. As a late Xbox game that was released on the 360 as well, you can tell it uses the Xbox well. Character models look good and the stadiums feel full. The soundtrack is also surprisingly solid with some really fun indie rock choices. It's always fun to go back to games like this and see what music was big at the time, and the stuff here is really good. It's all around a solid baseball game that you can't go wrong with. It's a good way to end baseball games on the console.
Here's the 2-1 pitch on the way. Grounded back to the mound. Rogers has it. Throws on to first, and the side is retired.
The next release was on June 26 with Ratatouille. This one came out on so many consoles at the time since it was in between generations. It's based on the Pixar film of the same name that came out just a few days before, and that's an excellent animated movie. It's published by THQ and developed by Asobo Studio. I've actually played this one before on the GameCube, and I'm playing the Xbox version now, and I would say it's pretty much the same thing. It's a good-looking licensed game for the time and follows the movie's plot with some additional elements. The game captures the movie's vibe well with French vistas and pretty music. I'm a sucker for games about being little and big environments, and this game does a good job with that. You're a little rat scurrying around streets and kitchens. It's a platformer too, so it has you hopping between different items and sneaking behind enemies. The controls are spot on and it feels good to play. I can appreciate how much this game swaps perspectives and has you running around from many different camera angles. It's a creative game, which is something special when talking about the last licensed North American game on the Xbox. There's a surprising amount of mini games here too, where you might need to do quick time events to make a perfect soup or just sneak around the kitchen. It's always trying to keep the game variety up, but doesn't detract from the plot. Hearing cast members like Patton Oswalt return to the game further adds fun and authenticity to this title. I think it makes for a movie game that does a good job of capturing what made the movie work and still manages to make something fun and not buggy. I'm not sure I'd play this version over the 360 version, but this is still a solid one to pick up out of the lineup. Ratatouille is a surprisingly fun movie game. It doesn't offer a ton of challenge, but it could work well for kids, and even as an adult, I think it's a simple good time. Next is Xiaolin Showdown, the last game released in PAL regions on June 29, 2007. It came out in North America on November 14, 2006, so it just missed the cutoff for this video. Konami and Warner Brothers published this game. Bottle Rocket Entertainment developed it. I'm playing the North American version of this game for this portion. Xiaolin Showdown is an odd one because it's a show that exists somewhere in the back of my mind. I don't think I ever watched it, but I do remember it existing. So I have zero experience with this game. I expected something like a basic platformer for a licensed game, but instead it's more of a Power Stone clone. In the main mode, you can play with up to 4 people. You run around arenas, beating up bad guys and collecting scrolls. That's it. There are many games to break up the action, but the bulk of gameplay is just the beat 'em up sections, and it's uninteresting. The combat with each character is a bland mix of punches and kicks. You get a super move, but they're really nothing special. You just kill enemies, and it's extremely easy to do so with only one small location to run around. You don't even move around all that much, there's just not enough going on to keep these long levels interesting. It's not bad though, because the controls are fine, and for a licensed children's show game of the time, it's better than some stuff out there. It also looks good with bright colors and a cartoony look that feels emblematic of the show it's based on. The voice acting is also great, and I assume it's the same voice actors as the show because they bring a lot of character to the game. The portion of the game that makes it a little bit better is the mini-games. It's simple brawler mini-games like King of the Hill, ones where you beat up each other for points or you just play tag. Honestly, I don't think anyone playing this is going to play it for that long, especially on a console that has much better multiplayer titles, but it's at least fun. I had a good time running around with CPUs, which means with people, it'll be a lot better. As a whole package though, I feel like this game is just mediocre. It has some fun elements and the look is nice, but the gameplay is pretty bland in the story mode. On July 17th, North America got NCAA Football 08. This is a college football game developed and published by EA. Football is the sport that I'm most knowledgeable of since I grew up in a football household. Though they were more interested in NFL than college, and I don't really follow either, but I do turn on a Madden game occasionally if I get in the mood. NCAA here feels much the same and plays like a football game at the time. You go out on the field, pass, run, and kick, everything you'd expect. It's a good football game to play though. It's going for more of a simulation over an arcade approach, even though it has an arcade pursuit mode which is faster and has higher scores, but the simulation mode is much more polished and fun. It's a good game with solid character animations and stadiums look full and bright. This game comes with a dynasty mode, so you can go through with a team and build up wins over the season. For me though, the mode that I found the most entertaining was Campus Legend. In this mode, you have a new college student and you pick a major. You have to balance schoolwork and football. This way you can further your prospects and make it through college. It's not terribly in-depth, but I like the idea. It's a fun RPG experience in a sports game, and dare I say, almost Persona-like. I'm just being silly here, but it is a fun game mode. Campus Legend helps make this a solid football game, and once you graduate, you can move them into that year's Madden for the Superstar mode. I'd say this is all around a solid college football game, and it's worth checking out if you're a fan of football games.
Indiana lines up with three receivers. He drops back, looks, he goes downtown. Someone got a hand on it. To the 20, to the 10. Touchdown! They hooked up for the big play.
The last Xbox game of 2007 came out on August 14th, and it's yet another football game with Madden NFL 08. It was published and developed by EA. This is the sports game that I'm most familiar with, and in my eyes, is the best sports game of the bunch today. This is similar to the last game except with NFL teams and stadiums, and with that comes a little more prestige. You have giant stadiums and locales. All around, this is a very polished Madden game. It looks good on the Xbox with character models looking solid, and the whole game has a high quality, clean look. The gameplay is smooth, with passing feeling excellent, along with rushing. Playtime on the field is excellent and addicting. I spent more time on this game than I expected, but that's mainly due to the additional modes. You of course have a franchise mode that has you developing and building a team to be the best that you possibly can be. This mode is solid, but the Superstar mode is the star here. Here you take a player starting off in the league and you build them up to reach the Hall of Fame. This has you training, doing IQ tests, and playing games. You play the position too, instead of controlling everyone on the team. It's a fun way to change up the gameplay here. Being able to import that year's NCAA player is fun too, and once again, makes the football experience a bit more personal. Other than that though, this Madden is pretty much standard fare for the time, but it's still a good one. It plays well and has some nice additions to make this one worth returning to. Is it essential? By no means, but if you need a football pick, this isn't a bad choice.
Carolina lines up in a 4-3. Drops back. With the throw. Picked off. It's intercepted. He didn't look.
And the final game released on the Xbox was Madden NFL 09, almost a year later than the last, releasing on August 12, 2008. The 360 was almost out for 3 years, and this console still got a Madden game. Once again, it's another football game. But this is a complete rehash of the last entry. And this isn't in a jokey way either. This is pretty much the same exact game with a roster swap. It looks the same, which means it looks good. Character models are still fluid, stadiums are bright and full, and aesthetics are nice. The gameplay is the same with solid controls. Passing and rushing feel good. It's another fun football game, but what irks me is how little the Superstar mode has changed between games, and it has the same exact cutscenes. It has the same exact room to manage yourself in, and it's the same exact thing. It's just a new year. This isn't the only mode to reuse elements, where there's a tournament mode with the same exact graphics, and it's all around a rehash. It feels like a cheap cash-in to get some Xbox stragglers. Sure, it plays well, and it's at least fun, but did they even need to put this one out? I don't know, but I guess EA saw enough profit to redo the game again. This game does add one new thing, and it's called Family Mode, which is a simpler football game. Plays are simply titled like Run or Long Pass. It's quick and easy and good for families, but it does feel like an addition from the Wii release just getting pushed in here. At least this is a new feature, but nothing worth writing home about. Sure, Madden 09 is solid, but not worth the inflated prices by any means. You might as well stick to Madden 08 here.
Can he get there? Touchdown, Redskins.
And here you have the line getting a big push. And you just follow that surge in for the touchdown.
So there it is. That was all 10 of the last North American original Xbox games, along with the last Japanese and European releases. Overall, I'd say they were decent. There are some fun releases like Ratatouille and Thrillville, and then there were some bad ones like the hunting game. It's a mixed bag, but most consoles end with a whimper rather than very strong. The Xbox was no exception in getting mostly sports releases at the end of its life, but there is something a bit sad about its very last game just being a rehash. At least it was a fun football game though. I did find it interesting to see how the console ended and how the legacy of the original Xbox went out. But that does wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with the retro Xbox content. Check out Camp Extras, my second channel where I talk about other things other than Xbox. Comment below with your feelings on any of these games. I'd love to hear from you. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. And I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.